Hello everyone, my name is Evgenia and I'm ICF certified career coach and mentor. I help professionals with scientific and technical background to find and use their own personal strengths, talent and long-term career goals. I navigate them through challenging career transitions. Welcome on my YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. It would help me very much to continue what am I doing right now. Thank you. And today we have a special issue. I have a guest, Ilya Vladimirskiy. He is with me online and he has been leading the data science teams for over 15 years. So would you like to walk us through your experience first?
Hello, Zhenya. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite. Yes, sure. Happy to share things I understood about hiring and about tech world in general. My background is data engineering, so I studied computational mathematics. I moved to Germany almost 25 years ago, and after some research activities, went to industry. Data engineering is like the basis for any data jobs, I would say. In my case, I moved towards management at some point. So my last 3 permanent jobs were managing engineers or managing managers who manage engineers. And now currently I'm freelancing. So I'm doing some advisory consulting roles for startups, scale-ups. Basically, I join companies on a part-time or interim basis as a data leader and help them to build their data platforms and data teams. Yeah, so I'm excited to be here and happy to answer whatever questions you might have.
And there's one thing I forgot to mention, that with Ilya, we studied at the same school back in Moscow many, many years ago.
Yes, like Zhenya studied a bit later than I did, but that's true. We are like school alumni. That's funny.
So what does actually hiring mean to you personally as a team leader? Why this process? I know that you find it important. Why so?
If I need to choose like one word, it's a pain. So I think for any team leader, for any manager, it's a pain. You have your deliverables, you need to manage projects to make your stakeholders happy. And when you realize like your team needs to grow, it's a lot of effort. And it's also a very risky thing because wrong hiring decision can be damaging. So I think I always enjoyed interviews on both sides of the tables. Actually like being interviewed and I like to interview. I know that for some people it's stressful and unpleasant. Like in my case, it's not, but it's just a personal thing. As a manager, I would say it's needed. Like you need to grow. You need to, even if you don't grow, you need to backfill some positions when people leave, and stakes are very high. So not getting the right person on time, or even worse, getting the wrong person, can be really game changer.
Yeah, I see here is a lot of, you talk a lot about the risk involved in the hiring process, right? Yeah.
Yes. I think it's a challenging situation for both sides. Candidates are nervous and they want a job. For a company, they need to choose, and it's a bit like dating, right? You have a short time to get to know somebody before you make long-term commitments. And in case of companies, depends on the country, but if you talk Germany, hiring somebody for a permanent contract is a big commitment. So I think, that's obviously a very important part of the job of any people manager.
And do you see any differences with respect to the size of the company, for example, how the hiring process is important or how it's conducted in a large corporation or in a startup? Can you also
sure.
share your thoughts about this?
Yes, my personal experience is mostly connected to startups and scale-ups. So most of the companies I worked for were, let's say, from 50 to 500 people. And also it was all IT, very international, very weird, sometimes weird mix of cultures in Berlin. So I think my experience is not something we can just extend to any company or any industry for sure. If you ask about size, like naturally, the bigger the company is, the more processes you have, the more process heavy it is. You have HR, you have maybe a talent acquisition team within a company, and sometimes a lot of approval layers. So even if you want to get somebody, you cannot move fast. Like 8 interviews, rounds of interviews, or things like this. Whereas in a startup, if you have a direct connection to a decision maker, for example, like as a data leader, I sometimes reported to CTOs. If a CTO wants something to happen, they can move very fast. They can just make decisions, make shortcuts. So you have more flexibility, but it comes with a price. My experience in hiring is each time I tried to shortcut the process, my own process, it went wrong. So each time I thought, this is an exceptional candidate, I can skip the team fit interview because like I believe she will do it. And then it didn't work out. So I would say it's important to follow the process, even if you're in a small company. But of course, in a small company, you can assure your process is slim, and you always have some room for flexibility. Yeah? Whereas in the bigger setups, it's just numbers. It's just yet another candidate. And even as a hiring manager, like if you're at Facebook or Amazon, even as a hiring manager, you don't have that much decision power. You are just providing your feedback, and the decisions is made by some committee, maybe, like two levels above you. So it depends. It depends heavily on industry, on the culture, on personal maybe beliefs of some decision makers in the company, and it's always different. Like every story is different, like every date. So sorry for the parallels.
I know, I hear a lot of such parallels when we talk about networking, for example. There is always this parallel with dating, because at the end it's all human relations. Whatever it's professional, personal, we connect the same way. Let's look on the hiring process from the perspective of a candidate. Can you share with me what are the 3 top qualities you consistently look when you're hiring a data scientist or data engineer?
Okay, so in my case, most of the roles I hired for were like data engineers, data analysts, business intelligence, business analytics roles, or data scientists. With the current landscape, data science is losing, I would say, the focus because it was obviously hype. Like 10 years ago, everyone was looking for data scientists. A lot of people did machine learning, but it turns out that the business outcome, business value of those hires in many companies just did not materialize. And today we have a new hype. Today it's all about AI, but I would say it doesn't matter which role. So from my current point of view, and again, please don't generalize what I say. Every manager is different. Every company is different. So please take everything I say with a grain of salt. It's just my personal way to do things. But if you come to my interviews, what I look at is, it's my gut feeling. If this person would be a nice person to have around for 8 hours a day next 3 years, let's say. And of course, in a remote setup, you don't work in the same office anymore, but nevertheless, like, is it somebody you really want to see every day? And if the answer is I'm not sure, it's a no, because your gut feeling is important. So
this is something very difficult to rationalize and put in a kind of, the scheme for a candidate. Well, me as a career coach, that's what I'm looking for. But this is super curious. I probably, in my language, I'm calling this intuition. How you feel about the person.
It's intuition, it's vibe. It's like Germans would say, it's your Bauchgefühl, like your stomach tells you. I think what it is unconscious experience, because if you have a lot of experience, if you work with a lot of people, maybe you cannot verbalize it, you don't know why, but you feel something is cheesy, something is wrong, I don't know what. And I made this experience very early in my career. My very first team in Germany, I was privileged to lead. I hired a person who was technically brilliant. Like he just crushed our interview. He solved everything. He knew all technologies. He was perfectly suited. And then I had this feeling, I don't like this guy, and I don't know why. And I thought back then, I was like, I think between 25 and 30, I thought, oh, it would be Ilya. Like, if you don't hire this person, it will be unprofessional because you don't like him, but it's your personal opinion, and the guy is like brilliant. So I hired him, and that was a horror. Like he didn't integrate into a team. He made very bad jokes, insulting jokes. He completely ruined the atmosphere, and I had to fire him, and it was like not nice. I hate firing people, so especially I hate firing people whom I just hired myself. So it was a bad experience, but it taught me trust your gut. Like if you don't know what it is, but something is wrong. But sorry, back to your question. It's not a pragmatic instruction for candidates, right? It's like, what am I saying? Please don't make a strange impression on Ilya. Like it's very vague, right? So what I really look at is communication. So the person should talk, like not be silent, and talk maybe a bit beyond what I am asking. At the same time, leave me some space to talk as well, because some people in interviews, they just occupy all the space. So communication, obviously, you need some level of English. Like if you cannot express yourself, if you cannot understand the nuances of what is asked in most majority of the jobs, it's going to be a red flag. Also, the story should be consistent. Like if somebody pretends to be a senior engineer and then I ask something and I realize they don't know some very basic abbreviations or like technologies, or it's not about knowing every technologies in details, but understanding the big picture, seeing the big picture, you know. And sometimes I'm not even talking about fake CVs or like different people coming to interviews, like not about this whole fraud cases. I'm talking about real people who just maybe oversell in a CV. And what I tend to do as well, in my case, I often ask about SQL and Python. So I ask candidates to assess their level of knowledge in both technologies and both languages, like on a scale from 1 to 10. And if they say they are 8, and then they cannot explain me some basic concepts which you learn like in a first chapter of every SQL book, then I would be suspicious. Like something is wrong. Either the person is overselling, or the person is genuinely believing they are expert or close to expert, but actually they don't understand what they're talking about. So whatever it is, if somebody tells me I am a pro and then I realize they fail some basic stuff, it's a huge red flag, because it puts whatever you say or put on your CV just under a huge question mark.
Yeah, it's becoming harder to trust this person. Yeah,
of course, you make everything questionable, and it's just too high of a risk to hire. So communication, maybe this like reality check of the CV and the overall branding, like positioning. I think it's much better to tell, I don't know this, I never heard about this, can you explain me, than to pretend you know, and then it will backfire anyway. And last but not least is the attitude. Like if you ask a person, I hate the standard HR questions like, why do you want to join our company? Because I mean, they want to join the company because we have an opening and they want to be hired, right? So I don't expect people to tell me I was always dreaming of working in the industry or something, but they should show interest a bit beyond the position. Like they should say, like ask me about the business, ask me about the culture, about the team structure and how people interact. If they solely focus on hard skills in their topics and in their questions also important, like what they ask, then it's also maybe not the best way to approach it. So summarizing, communication, credibility, like reliability of the materials like CV and the story, if the story is actually fits, and attitude, how they approach problems, how they talk to other people, how they basically react in some working situations.
And you also talked a little bit about motivation, why they would like to join. And it seems like you are also looking for like a genuine personal interest in joining the company and doing the work.
Well, I need a consistent story. Like if they
Yeah.
tell me I want to join your company because you work with this technology and I always wanted to move this way, that's a solid answer. If they tell me I worked in industry X for majority of my career, now I want to move to another industry and this is an entry-level role, like I may be a bit more senior for this role, but I understand that it's a different industry, different data and everything. So there should be something which makes sense to me in their motivation, you know. And I don't ask this question. I don't ask why you want to join. I just try to find it out from like the whole discussion. And another thing, like it's maybe a data specifics. You have people in data who are very technical, very engineering, focused on engineering, and they normally say. So some people say in interviews like, "Oh, I don't care so much which data you have, if it's e-health, if it's dating, if it's automotive. I just want to move data from system A to system B, and I don't care about the business use cases." And this is a problem because currently with the smaller teams, with cross-functional teams, everyone needs to be business savvy. So I think maybe with this approach, I'm a narrow specialist. I only do engineering. I don't want to talk to people, to business, to understand their needs. Maybe you can find a job in a bigger company where you will be just a small piece in their infrastructure. But if you want to work for startup scale-ups, I would rather go with more holistic end-to-end approach.
Yeah, that is a very good thing. That's not just to do like your super narrow job, but also to understand what is going around and why you're actually doing this, why you're moving this data from A to B.
And challenge, because when people come to you, to a data engineer or data analyst and say, I need this chart, I need this dashboard, the most unprofessional thing to do is just to sit down and do the chart. Actually, you should ask them why. What problem are you solving with it? And maybe you can come with a different solution. Maybe they don't need a dashboard. You know, Henry Ford said, if I would listen to people, you know, this famous quote, if I would listen what people want, everyone wanted faster horses, right? Horses which run faster. Nobody asked me for cars. So you should not do what people ask. You should understand what they need and actually serve this need. Yes, so I think this is crucial. Another way to look at it is this concept of T-shaped people and I-shaped people. You know, T-shaped is you have like, yeah, you have like, let's take an example of data. If you're a data engineer, but you also know a bit about visualizations and data analytics and business use cases, and you also know about modeling and machine learning and prediction models, so it's like T-shaped. You know a bit here, and then you have a deep expertise in one area. Like in all three areas, you are like on maybe beginner's level or average level, and then maybe you're an expert in engineering. Whereas I-shaped people is like, I'm a data engineer. I know nothing about machine learning. I don't want to know. Don't talk to me about it. Just let me know which data you need. And this is a problem because this is a way to create silos in your team where everyone just knows a piece of work. They don't understand how it connects to each other. They just blindly do whatever they are asked for. So I think generalists or T-shaped people are much more in demand in the current setup. Again, we are living in a crisis, and in my opinion, it's going to be worse than today. So teams will shrink. We will have smaller budgets, flat hierarchies. The more one-man show you are, like the more all-rounder you are, the better your chances.
You know what you're saying, it's very, very interesting. And there is actually this personality test. It includes 5 different options or different, how do you say?
Dimensions.
Different dimensions. Yes, thank you. And one of them is openness, how open you are to different tasks, to different opinions, and like it's not only related to the job, but it's how often you go to new restaurants and try different dishes, or how often you meet new people. And this is actually what you're talking about. And it's very narrow. Oh, I don't want to say narrow-minded, but we will cut that.
Narrow in professional sense,
Very
like narrow
close
specialists.
people,
Yeah.
yes, they are not good for all the type of positions. So the type positions that could be.
Yeah. I agree with you that it has something to do with personality, and some people are more extroverted, like talk more, like myself. Some
Yeah,
people
that is
are
another
more
one. Yeah.
introverted. Yeah, openness is important, or like how you stick to processes or things, or how flexible you are.
Mhm.
I still think you can be not very open in a personal life for like things, and you can be a bit, blinded to like ways of working, and you can be a bit of a general specialist. So I think it's like for introverts, it's much more difficult to do public speaking, but they can learn it still,
This is
It's
two
yeah.
different dimensions. So openness is one, and introvert, extrovert is a different one. So
It was a bad example. I was
yeah.
just saying you can do things which are not natural to you. For
Yep.
example, public speaking introverts, or for example,
Yep.
learning neighbor areas, being like not very open-minded. But yeah, and just final comment here from my side. On a team level, I strive for diversity. So I think if you get only open-minded introverts in your team, they won't be successful as a team. So I think there is a space for not very open-minded people in my teams if they come with some other properties which compensate it.
Yeah, for sure. While we were discussing, I had a very important question that I'm keeping till this moment. It goes in the direction of taking the risk for hiring new people. How open are you to hire someone from your network? Or do you prefer someone who you never know because of a diversity?
Okay,
But there's a diversity and the risk.
that's a good question. That's a good question, because there
It's
is
not in
a
our
trade-off.
script.
Yeah, but that's a very good question. There is a trade-off. Obviously, if you always hire through your network, there's a high chance that you will hire people from your culture, from your maybe background, your age, whatever. So, just to be honest with you, I think I didn't mention before, one of my basic principles in hiring is weak yes is a no. Like if you are not completely sure this is a good match, you rather pass. And this is difficult, and this of course puts the bar very high, because I only want to hire people with strong yes, meaning yes, that's exactly the person I was looking for you like for the last 3 months. I want this person now. And this is the attitude, or this is a feeling you should have actually for every offer. Doesn't work always, but the problem is that, like in machine learning, you have false positives and false negatives. False positive in hiring is just super dangerous. So hiring somebody who would not be a good fit for your team or for your company can damage your team or even your company for some roles. So I think you should just be mindful. So just to be honest with you, I think I didn't mention before, one of my basic principles in hiring is weak yes is a no. Like if you are not completely sure this is a good match, you rather pass. And this is difficult, and this of course puts the bar very high, because I only want to hire people with strong yes, meaning yes, that's exactly the person I was looking for you like for the last 3 months. I want this person now. And this is the attitude, or this is a feeling you should have actually for every offer. Doesn't work always, but the problem is that, like in machine learning, you have false positives and false negatives. False positive in hiring is just super dangerous. So hiring somebody who would not be a good fit for your team or for your company can damage your team or even your company for some roles. So I think you should just be mindful as a manager. It's better to reject a perfect candidate than to hire a bad candidate. So the risk is too high. What happens if you reject a great candidate? It's sad for you, it's sad for the person, but if they are that great, they will find another job, and you will probably find somebody at some point. So it's just an unpleasant situation for both sides, but nothing really bad happens. If you hire somebody who is not a good fit, in best case, you will need to fire them and start again. in a worst case, you can damage your team. Like other people can resign because of this person, or there can be some business consequences. So I think it's really dangerous game, and that's why I always tend to push for strong yes. Now I forgot your original question and why why I started this whole
It was about hiring someone from your network
network.
or
Okay,
getting someone
yes,
new.
thank you, thank you. So cultural fit and attitude are crucial and outperform hard skills in many cases. I would rather compromise on hard skills than on this. Meaning, if you hire somebody from through your network, I would maybe generalize it to referral. I would say if it's a referral from your colleagues, from your friends, from your grandmother, if it's a referral, oh, forget the grandmother, professional, like somebody who worked with this person professionally and says, I enjoyed it and I think you guys would like each other. This feeling, I like working together, is transitive. If A likes working together with B and B likes working together with C, it's very probable that A would like working together with C. Meaning that referrals, it's not a guarantee, that there's a very high chances that team fit, cultural fit, attitude, all these things gonna be met, which of course makes the hiring way less risky. It's so much easier to check SQL and Python than check all these things. How would you know like about somebody's personality in like 1 hour interview? It's very short. So I think I am 100% for referrals. In all my companies, I always ask people to come with like friends, ex-colleagues recommendations. I always had fast track for referrals. For example, many times I said at least every referral should talk to a hiring manager once. Like if it's a referral, even if HR says we don't think it's a good fit, I would still overrule HR and say, no, I want to talk to this person because it's a referral. So I think that's also a bit of a respect to the person who brings the candidate, because like not even giving a chance, not even talking is maybe not helpful. And the diversity part is a very good question, because if you always do this way, you risk that you end up in a very similar-minded people, very similar, like monocultural teams. So sometimes maybe bringing candidates from very different angle, like through recruiters or through a very like, weird community, can be good. Yeah, but you can also strive for diversity even with referrals, right? Diversity is a huge topic for itself, and like positive discrimination, and I can also talk for hours about it. But if I have candidates from referrals, I can still prioritize those which will increase diversity of my team, right? I don't need to. Yeah, but I see your point. I see your point, and just finally here, networking is essential, especially nowadays. Not many teams. Not many teams.
Talking to my other camera.
Not many teams, not many openings, not many companies hiring. I made an experience that, especially on a senior level or managerial level, many jobs are just not public. So the only way to get to interviews is through your networks, and somebody tells, yeah, I know John, and John looks for somebody with your skill set. Would you like an intro? Of course, it's maybe not a good recommendation for like entry level or like junior jobs. Those are more public and on LinkedIn. Nevertheless, if somebody checks your LinkedIn and you have shared connections, it puts you in a different liga than somebody just coming from the outside.
So please invest your time, energy, and maybe sometimes money in the networking. This is crucial for a candidate who is looking for the job right now, or who is planning to, especially who's planning to look for a job maybe in a year from now. And it's also increases your communication skills. That's what we were talking about.
Yes, networking is important. Yeah, and
yes,
also,
and I realized,
also you never know. Yeah, sorry, just on this page, you never know how you get to your next job or your next contract. Like if you are freelancing, just an example, I got my big client for almost a year or even longer through, because you mentioned our school and that we went to the same high school, through actually a school alumni group. So you would never expect to find a job there, right? But it happens. So just knock on all possible doors.
Yeah. And I realized that a lot of also clients who come to me for coaching and for looking for the job, not all of them are actually doing the networking. It's just sending the applications. Yeah, it's decreases the chances to find a job, the good job that suits you. Maybe especially if you're switching a little bit of direction, and if you're new in a country, in a city.
But here we are back to this openness. Like, I think some people naturally like going to meetups, meeting new people, chatting, like small talk. For some people, it's a huge effort, and I understand that they prefer maybe to be, I just send my CV. But you're right, like, especially, again, talking about area I know better, data community in Berlin is very small. Like, I went to a few roundtables, I went to a few meetups, I got like a few beers with some people, and now I have LinkedIn network, and those are mostly people leading data teams in different Berlin startups. It's great because they have similar challenges as myself, they have similar questions. It's just good to have this tribe of similar-minded people on the same stage of my career. For somebody more junior, if you can connect to those people, while not being pushy, like not selling yourself, not saying, I need a job, please connect with me, but rather ask some technical questions if they do a public speaking, like
Learn
stay in
from
a networking session, like assure they remember you, and then a few days later send them a LinkedIn request, like, hey, it was so nice to meet you, I don't have an agenda, I don't want anything from you, let's just connect for the sake of connecting. And then most of the people would also connect with you, and then half a year later, if they have an opening, it's a very different setup than like just coming from a street.
Yeah, absolutely. And also those personality traits, they could be modified if, as long as you're aware of what your like level of openness or level of where you get energy from connection with people or from being alone. Once you're aware of this, and the coaching is a great tool to get this awareness, you can work on it. If your goal is, let's say, to find a job in half a year, then you have to agree with yourself. So, okay, it's a little bit less comfortable, but let me go maybe every second week outside, look for new connections, and then connect with them one-to-one, which is much more comfortable for me. Or connect just one-to-one through LinkedIn, and you don't need to go and meet 100 people. You just with one person. And for introverts, connecting with one person typically is okay because you're just focused on someone.
I mean,
so there are ways.
I believe you know much more theory on that than myself. I'm more like just my natural instincts, and also I'm judging from my perspective. I used to assess people or candidates or interviews on my scale, and then I realized it's actually wrong. So I think everyone is different, and as you say, it's important to know about your personality and not necessarily change it. I think sometimes some people say, I want to change myself. It's difficult for adults, but what you can do, you can learn the behaviors, right? And
exactly.
Again, I like examples which are a bit side jumps, but I recently started like singing lessons, and I was told my whole life that I have no like terrible voice for singing, like no musical sense, like no sense, no melody, no rhythm. So, and it's true. I'm not like a musician, natural born musician, but it just makes learning more difficult for me. Like some people are naturally like better in sports or this or that, which means I was probably limiting myself for like many years, and just because I was told in some Soviet school that you should not sing. I like German or European approach a bit more, where if you like it, why? Like, who said I'm not gonna sing as Pavarotti or like some great singers, but I like it, so I can learn it. And I think in a professional, it's the same. Like, if you know you need to connect with people, you need to network, but you don't necessarily enjoy it, well, I think there are ways to learn behaviors, right?
Exactly. And there are ways to find, it's not necessarily balance, it could be dynamic balance between let's say doing something that is unpleasant for you and actually making it the way you wanted.
Mm.
Okay, let's go to maybe the last question. I actually do not check the time.
Yeah, that's such a nice and
You
fluent
know?
conversation.
Could you walk me through, let's say, 3 red flags in a hiring when you talk to a candidate? What is like really no to you?
Okay. So I think it's very pretty much connected to what I said, like important things to me. Like if somebody cannot explain abbreviations on their CV, like, or says I am 8 out of 10 on SQL, but cannot explain like simple select. I don't ask complicated stuff. I don't do like Google style interviews with algorithmic and like this. You need to be a, I don't know, like super smart or knowledgeable to answer. I ask basics. I ask like, write this very simple select. You have list of users, list of orders. Give me all users who ordered more than 20 times. Yeah, on this level. So anyone who knows SQL knows it's like really basics about the
That's not
joins,
me.
about something. Yeah. I mean, come on. In your area, it would be something else, but you know what I mean, right? If you talk to a biologist and they
Yeah.
don't know like some basics about proteins, you would probably question the whole story. So I think this is one thing, like not just being consistent with what you pretend to be, overselling. Everyone is overselling in interviews. Unfortunately, it's truth, and everyone is pretending to be. Yeah, but I would say the more you stay modest and like stay to yourself, you should be careful not to go into a different direction and just always let's say divide everything you say by 2. So some people multiply whatever they have by 2, and some people actually divide and they just say super modest. And this is bad because the interviewer would probably think you are overselling and they will go even more down on a scale. Yeah, so I had these cases. I had candidates who, after the interviews, we put them on like middle roles, and then I realized 2 weeks later they are like very senior. Like for this company, they should be senior or maybe even staff engineers. And that's because they were super modest in the interview, and being asked about the technology, they said, oh, I played with it a bit, but I never worked professionally. And then you realize they contribute to open source big repositories for this technology. They just never used it in the company, but they actually on an expert level for technology itself,
Yeah.
So this is like how
Can I
much
ask
you
you here,
oversell. Yeah.
do you see here the connection with gender?
Yes, definitely. Like women tend to be like very modest, and even I have another example. I was promoting somebody for team lead role. Like my teams were growing very fast. So I joined the company and I got 6 people, and then in 2 years we went to 27 in data. So we had to grow, we had to hire like crazy. Like I was 80% of my time was actually hiring. But then also I needed to restructure and fork teams and split teams and then introduce middle management. And for that, we didn't have budgets to hire like experienced managers. So I said I will promote some people. And then we made like internal applications and interviews. And there was a woman in my team who was a very good data analyst, like middle, not even a senior. And she joined, she expressed an interest in like team lead. And I was, wow, like a female team lead, great. So let's try it. And she was nice in interview and everything. And like at the very end of the interview, where we actually already made a decision, we will give her this chance. She said, yeah, by the way, I already had a team, and like in Indonesia, where she comes from, I already led a team of like 4, but it didn't work so well. And I was, come on, you have a managerial experience like 1 year long, and you didn't mention it while applying for a managerial role. And she said, yeah, but it didn't work well. I had to leave the company. Like it didn't work. It's so, I'm pretty sure every single male applicant would say, I was a big boss in this company. I hired people. I fired people. I built a team. They would never ever hide this fact from their CV. Yeah. So there is a huge gender thing, and this famous thing that women apply to jobs where they see like 9 out of 10 checkboxes, and male are like 4 or 5. I think like they just half of the requirements are met. Fine, I'm a great candidate.
Yeah, and
Okay.
also I in my position, I always encourage, well, also male clients to apply to positions when it's like 60% is check. But it's
Okay.
I know that, well, yeah, the same. But I know that for women it's much more difficult
Yeah.
for
No,
some reason.
there is a huge gender change, and also obviously cultural thing. Like depending
Yeah.
on culture, people the way they present themselves, the way American, like senior American engineer in an interview is a very different
Yeah, I could
case
imagine.
as like junior Asian, I don't know, Chinese or Japanese candidate, female. Yeah, very, very different cultures. So, okay, but back to your question with red flag. So first is like not being consistent, say or do something which just doesn't fit your story. Then second is probably statements like, what are my responsibilities? Like, this is not my job. You ask about previous
Mm-hmm.
experiences and they say, it was not my responsibility. I never asked. Like, I worked 3 years in a team with somebody and I don't know what they did. Like, somebody else decided for technologies and you're like, okay, but do you know why they picked this technology? I never asked. Like, I was given a technology and I worked with it. So I'm looking for proactive people. I'm mostly looking,
Mm-hmm.
again, in the startup world for like people who challenge things, who don't like blindly follow orders, because I also
Mm-hmm.
don't give orders. So I'm looking, in my case, I'm looking for people not to tell them what to do, but rather that they know how to do it. I can still put the direction. I can still tell them where we
Mm-hmm.
want to get as a business, but I want them to tell me how, right? I don't want, yeah. And normally I need somebody with better understanding of maybe technology than myself, even because otherwise I could do it myself.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
also in like chemical, biological teams, specialist teams, especially in the startups, you hire a person as a like startup leader so that they know what to do and they tell you what to do because you have different background and you don't need a person
Yeah.
with the same background.
Yeah. You mean like if you are not technical yourself as a founder and you need like
For
some, yeah,
sure,
but then
for
either you
sure.
need somebody in your founding team, like somebody technical, or you need to hire like a strong
I need to
engineering leader.
hire.
Yeah.
Usually both. Usually
Or
both.
both. Yeah.
In a
And the
startup,
third,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
no,
Mhm.
sorry.
No,
Go
no.
on.
Yeah, in the startup, usually you have a technical leader, but to scale up the company and to work specifically on one aspect of it, on one technology, you usually need two different expertise. So,
Okay.
mhm.
Okay, so first red flag was like not being consistent. Second was maybe being like too focused on
Yeah.
narrow area, like not showing any interest or any curiosity around. Third would be, let me think, like attitude. I mean, I'm like missing some obvious things like language and communication style. Yeah, maybe okay. Again, I want to hire different people with different world belief, with different political views, with different, of course, and I by no means I'm saying you should judge candidates based on that. But nevertheless, you should have
Yep.
somebody with similar values. I think having similar set of values
Mhm.
is important. So if somebody tells me in an interview, I prefer working with male engineers because we understand each other better, it's like direct no for me because okay, we have very different values, very different views on the world. Yeah, I had a candidate who said, I don't like communication with other people. I'm very efficient. You can put me in a room, give me tasks like in Jira, I will work on them, I will deliver. Well, for that I can get a freelancer on Upwork. Like I want somebody for my team. I want somebody who will multiply other people and work collaboratively with them. I don't necessarily need just a unit to process tasks. So values are important, I think, like definition what is good and what is bad. So any kind of, I mean, obviously racist jokes or sexist jokes or like any kind of this behavior is a red flag for any like normal person, I think. But even not going that far, even like you see a big misalignment on some things which are important to you, it's a strong sign you should not proceed. Yeah. So you see, I didn't mention like a single hard skill. Like I didn't talk about
Exactly.
programming or
Exactly.
engineering. Yeah.
Yeah. So first, to get to know your personal professional values. Again, here it's perfect moment to advertise a coaching, because that's personal values is one of the very important sessions and the topic in my coaching programs. We spent 1.5 hours understanding what is important for you, what is the working conditions, what's beyond even the working conditions, which part of your life you would like to like contribute to push further, and what is like meaningful for you. And there was something else very smart I wanted to say, but I forgot. Yes, I remember. That's actually what you are saying. It's also very important to understand and to consider from the candidate point of view. If that's what I'm telling to my clients. If you go to the company and during the interview you figure out that they are doing racist jokes, or they are like something, for example, you feel there is micromanagement, you feel there is the boss or supervisor talking alone without letting a word to the company, to the team.
Yeah.
You can see what is happening with the hierarchy and how the decisions are taken. Maybe this is not for a candidate. So it works both ways. And I remember we talked about not advising the candidate to say no for a position in such a difficult environment. And it's very hard to get a job. And I totally agree. And what I would advise here is, again, to be open with yourself and to get an agreement with yourself, saying, okay, this is my only option. In the past year, I didn't get any offer. I'm getting an offer here, but I know that might be not a perfect environment for me. So what do you do then? Would you like to accept this position, or you actually would like to spend more time? And this is up to you. Maybe you get, sorry to say that to you, but some candidates would like to get the job, to be safe, and then continue looking for a better fit.
Yeah. So I think, first of all, like what you say applies to everything I said today. So interview is a two-way street, in a sense that candidate is also checking the company and deciding if they want to proceed. And people tend to forget it. Same for probation period, by the way. Probation period works both ways. It's not just they can kick me out, you can also kick them out. But yeah, and to this thing with that's my only offer, unfortunately, the market is tough. I have a friend, close friend, and he was, as you say, like more than a year without a job, and his unemployment money ended. And he accepted an offer in a company which puts on a job contract that you cannot use personal mobile phone in the office. Meaning, yeah, it's not like a production factory. It's an IT company, and this person is actually a top manager in marketing. So it's crazy, right? It shows a huge mistrust in employees. It actually shows we treat you. Yeah, of course, it's like 100% office, on-site, 9 to 6, like everything. And it's a startup. That's also funny. It's a startup, small company, and the founder, who is very young, he thinks that's the way to manage people. So he has
Can I
all
ask
his
if he's
people.
from Japan?
No, he's German. That's also interesting. So yeah, and my friend is from another country, like not German, not Russian, not Japanese. So what I'm saying, would he accept this kind of contracts like 5 years ago? He would like laugh in the face of this guy. And of course he looks for a normal job, right? Because it's not normal to mistrust your employees on that level. But yeah, that's the reality we are in, unfortunately. And I can only encourage people to, well, it's difficult to, as you say, it's difficult to give advices like reject the offers if you don't like the vibe in the interview. If it's racist jokes, I would reject the offer too, because I think joining the company would be too damaging for your like mental health, and it's maybe worse than losing money. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I don't think here we are in a position to give any advice, because it's so much on the situation of the person, of the mental well-being, and like what is better, to stay without a job, because staying without a job, it's the the absence of basic need as a security, as
Yeah, of course.
safety. So
that's for sure.
yeah,
I mean, it's an important personal decision, but you are absolutely right. You should assess a company on the same scale as the companies assess you, and everything you said, I would second. Like hierarchies, how managers talk to their team in the interview, how much power distance, like how much, yeah, that's you see it pretty well. Like you see this team dynamics, and even in the choice of words they use, you have. I think you have the feeling pretty fast. Yeah.
Exactly. And also what we are doing with my clients is first we understanding their values, what they need, and then we also try to find the questions which you can ask the interview and probe what is going on there, for example.
Questions are crucial. Like I actually write down what candidates asked. I write it into my scoring card for every interview, because for me it's an important thing. Like if they only ask me about technology, clouds, like ETL tools and frameworks, it's one situation. If they ask me about communication and team processes like Scrum or like agile, not agile. So it's very interesting. And sometimes people ask great questions, like unexpected questions. My favorite is, it's not new, like I heard it before, but some people ask like, if you could change one thing in this company you work for, what would it be? And it's a great question, because you kind of ask about things which are not working well, and people start thinking. Yeah. You reverse the table a bit. Instead of asking a candidate what's your weakness, you suddenly ask the interviewer what's the weakness of your company, what is your challenge, what is your pain point.
Yeah, I think it's also fair to know.
Of course.
Wait,
another one on this track. No.
We also know that the companies are also not perfect, and that's okay to admit it.
Well, if they say they are perfect and there is nothing I would change, it's a huge red flag for me as a candidate, right? Because then they're not reflecting, they are not improving. Yeah. Another great question, just as an add-on, is which problem are you solving with this hire? Like, if it's a new position, for example, if it's not a backfill, like, what is a challenge? What is a problem? There must be something you have in your business, in your processes, in your team, which you want to improve with this hire. What is it? What is the essence of this role? It's not about responsibilities. It's not like, tell me my responsibilities. It's about the problem so you're hired to solve a problem. What is a problem?
And this is very important question. I also advise candidates to ask it. You know also why? Because it will give you the settings. If it's a new role, most likely a lot of processes you as a candidate need to establish yourself.
Yeah.
You might have a support, but it's like, well, it's a new role. But if someone, for example, retired or left the job, there are processes there, and you have a kind of an expectations what is needed from you. So it's
yes,
very different.
And on the same, like on this topic, I tend to ask when I'm like the candidate, I tend to ask if it's a backfill position. I don't ask why the previous person left, or was the previous person fired? Of course, I think that's not. But I am kind of framing it as, if I join you, what should I do better than the previous person, right? Like, were it a perfect candidate who just left and you are looking for a replacement, like a one-to-one replacement, or was there something this person maybe was not doing, or something this person was doing but you didn't like it? So tell me about behaviors, not judging the person, not telling me the context, but tell me what should I do better to be successful in this job. And I think it's a very good question, and also not too negative, right? Not too like, not drilling them down. Why did you lose this person? And
And there was, in the meantime, you said another question that I also like, and I use it in my networking and, pre-interview interviews. When I ask for it, what would make the successful candidate for this role? What would make the successful, not even the candidate, but the hire in this role? What are the KPIs? How do you envision what I will bring? What you want this person to bring?
Another way to look at it, like, after 3 months of me joining, how would you measure success? Like, which metrics would you use to measure if I am successfully doing the job? Yeah, and you brought a very important point about unofficial talks before the interview, it's crucial. Like if you can get those, if you're coming through a network, sometimes, like I do it as a hiring manager, I offer people, do you want half an hour chat without record, like off the record. I will not put it into any scoring card. Whatever you say will not influence. Okay, racist jokes would influence the process, but technically, like it's not an interview. It's just
Yeah.
I tell more about the role and my expectations, and they can see if they want to apply. So it's, and maybe again, it's coming from a good old times where I was chasing the candidates to apply. I was like, please come to interview. We need you. And then I said, okay, you don't want to go to a formal interview. Let's meet for a coffee and just chat. And I will tell you about myself and the role. I think if you can get those, it's of course great because so first you understand what they're looking for. And second, you are prepared for the real interviews where you can highlight parts of your career or CV which are relevant because you know what they are judging on.
Exactly. Yes. And on this note, actually, I was contacting one specific organization for a specific role. Usually, I get those pre-interview like discussions, or at least that. For one particular organization, I contacted two people, and both of them said, "No, sorry, we don't have capacity for that." And this was also like tells me how do they work, how like open they are, how do I would want to work there.
Well, I can see many scenarios. Maybe they have a very strict HR process which prohibits them to talk to potential candidates before because it's like off the record and they don't want it. Okay. Maybe they have thousands of applications already and they think I should not spend time like, yeah. Or maybe they didn't like your profile. they checked your LinkedIn and just thought, no, but instead of telling you like, honestly, look, we don't believe it's a good fit for you, they just say I don't have time, which is a nice, maybe for some people, nice way to say no. So it can be, that's maybe also like, given how many applications people do nowadays and how difficult it is, you get a lot of rejections. You get rejections every day, and working with rejections is probably also something I assume you can help as a coach, but what I tend to tell my friends or like candidates or like people I mentor, majority of rejections I sent were not because of the candidate skills or experiences. Like in it's difficult to quantify, but let's say 7 out of 10 cases, it's not because the candidate was bad. It's because we closed the position, because other candidates were like better in this particular thing, because a big boss said, are you hiring again for data? Like what's going on? Like I need to look into it. Please pause for 3 weeks. And then you basically reject if it's
everyone.
Or you reject everyone. So tons of situations why you can get rejected, and many times it has nothing to do with your but people of course perceive it as a personal failure. People think I'm not good enough, people blame themselves, and it influences of course their like self-perception. So I would just keep repeating to people I talk to, it's just a reject. It most probably has nothing to do with you personally. It's just not the company for you to work this time. So move on, go on. Yeah.
I suggest we will be wrapping up our discussion today. And the last question I would like to ask you as a career coach, it's my personal interest. What would you say that career coaches or career consultants often miss when they help their clients to prepare for the roles in data or tech?
Okay. It's a tough one because I personally never worked with a career coach, so I don't have personal experience. I can only answer based on what I know from some friends, because I think I know a few people who do it for a living. And so maybe to start with, what I did a few times, well, more than a few times, I did like mentoring. I was working for a nonprofit tech school in Berlin, and then on top I was like mentoring some students. I also from time to time do like Q&A session with an online university for students on a similar topic, like entry-level jobs, first jobs in data, how to proceed, how to do it. So I'm sharing my experience from a very practical perspective as somebody who hired for many companies, many years long. I'm not that strong on these personal things, which Zhenya, you like mentioned, and I think that's crucial, and I think it's important. So as a coach, like you're not a therapist, right? You are not going deep into psychological, like into personal things. Nevertheless, you talk about similar things. You talk about values, you talk about self-perception, about being maybe self-assured and things like this. So I think I can just assume sometimes the real experience as a hiring manager can be missing. Like if you are just consulting on a topic, but you never did it, like you never were on another side of the table, then all your judgments are basically based on your own experience or on some theoretical things. So I think maybe a coach which is like has 20 years of hiring manager experience and then switches maybe can be more just trustworthy. Again, I'm not saying younger people or people with less practical knowledge as a manager cannot help to understand your values and beliefs and where to, in which direction to move. But being like on a practical side, like what to say and not say in an interview, probably like things I was trying to explain today, I think they're important. This is just domain knowledge. And on top of it, so I don't know if it's coming from coaching or from like just people who are desperate, but I published a job of a mid-level data engineer requiring 3 years of experience. It was like a hard requirement written, and I got, I don't know, about 1,000 applications in total before I closed the jobs. Like in California, I got 500 CVs in 2 hours when the location was San Francisco. It's a remote job, so we had like multiple locations and we tried different cities just to see who applies. All in all, I got maybe about 1,000 CVs, and I would say 700 out of them didn't have 3 years of experience as a data engineer. And some people were like, I will finish my master in a month, I need a job. I have 0 professional experience. And some people were, I work as a junior front-end developer, please hire me as a middle data engineer. And I understand that people are desperate. I understand they see California, remote work, American company, and they just apply because they have nothing to lose, right? But it's a noise. It's a noise for your pipeline. They all get rejected. It's frustration on both sides. So when people say, I applied to 1,000 jobs and I got 995 rejections, are you sure you applied to jobs which were a good fit? Like, what is better, to do like a spamming or like brute force, just applying to everything, where location, yeah, nobody reads descriptions. 5 years ago, I published a job on LinkedIn and I picked a wrong Word document. So it was a job, also data analyst, I believe, and I got a DevOps job description. But so the title was junior middle data analyst, and the job description was DevOps. And I got a lot of applications, and all of them were data analysts, which actually clearly shows that nobody read the job description. Like everyone just applied. So I personally believe this whole old ways of hiring, like job descriptions, CVs, selection, interviews, will vanish soon because of AI. Because I now use ChatGPT.
AI is talking to AI, yeah.
It's AI talking to AI, and it's like SEO, you know, like some years ago, SEO, like trying to make your website visible for Google. It's a black magic, and now it's a black magic about what you put on CV, so that LLM-based screening systems like let you through. It's all nonsense. We should skip all of this. We should get to probably back to on-site interviews again because of all this fake, and you know, you can hire people to do interviews for you with your like virtual mask. All this crazy stuff going on.
That is crazy.
I expect companies to get back to like 1 day full of interviews in the office, and how they will select candidates, I don't know, but probably with recruiters talking to them. So I expect a lot more screenings with recruiters, and then a lot more on-site interviews, because this whole system is broken, like on both sides. It's just frustration and LLMs everywhere. if you allow me a bit of advertisement, I made a
Right.
blog post about that, like about how broken the hiring is, and yeah, I have a video blog, so feel free to watch. Feel free to. It's more or less most of the things I talk about there. I spoke about today, so you won't get much more, but it's just 5 minutes long.
Yeah, so Ilya has the blog in LinkedIn, correct? And you post
Yeah, I have.
everything quite a lot.
Well, my main communication channel is LinkedIn. Yes, so please check my
And he has a
profile.
YouTube
Try,
channel.
and I have a YouTube channel which I just recently started. Exactly.
Yeah. So I
Yes.
think we put all the links in the description of this video. So we
Yes,
also
and I'm.
invite you to subscribe to Ilya if you want to get more knowledge about what data science and
Yeah.
how the hiring process works there.
Yes, I can even go one step further. Like, obviously, you are more than welcome to subscribe, to follow me on LinkedIn. I'm a bit restrictive with connections, so I normally connect with people whom I know personally, or like when I see a business need to connect. Having said this, if you write me a personal note while sending a connection request, so connection request without a note, in vast majority of cases, I just reject. I don't even go to the profile, because if the person doesn't take 1 minute to write down why they want to connect with me, why should I bother going to their profile? So if you send me a connection request and write like reference to this video, or maybe just write a word cucumber there, I would know you're coming from this video, you want to connect, and I'm happy to connect. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to my YouTube channel. And I really enjoyed this, our dialogue and discussion. I think it went outside of script and it was quite fluent. Thank you.
Those are the best discussions which go outside. Yeah, thanks again for the invite. I also enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see what what we have as a final cut.
Yes, same here. And hit the subscribe button. Bye.
Ciao.